Hello and welcome to the Be Formless, Flow Driven CEO and BC podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, business, and investing from the inside out. And today I am welcoming to the show from San Francisco, the Bay Area, Bryce Gilleland. Welcome to the show, Bryce.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, thank you. That's a bit of a tongue twister, your surname, isn't it? Like there's three L's in there. Like I just went to go Gilland and then I'm like, no, Gilleland.
Yeah, you got it though. Most telemarketers totally butcher the name,
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? You must get that a fair bit, right?
Yeah, there's we get like Gilligand a lot, which we're like, there's no J. Where's
No,
the J?
no. You know what I went to, though? I went to Gilligan's Island, and I'm not taking the piss or anything, but I was like,
Hey, I haven't even been there. But yeah, I used to in elementary school get called Gilligan's Island all the time.
did
So
you?
yeah,
Oh, that's not fun, is it? Anyway, how's yours? How's the start of your week going? Monday vibes?
yeah, it's great. Talked to a few founders today, talking about a few deals, doing some work, doing some vibe coding.
Yeah,
It's a great day.
cool. And it looks like from the background, you're a bit of a Star Wars fan, is that right?
Yeah, I'm a nerd. There's some comic book stuff. There's some Star Wars stuff. There's
Man,
Legos everywhere. Yeah, Batman. A
yeah.
little balance. There's a Thor right there. This little hammer, Mjolnir.
God, how funny. I love it. It says a lot about people and their imagination and their creativity. And so, yeah, very cool. Let's get on into it, Bryce. You are the managing partner of California Innovation Fund, and your career has been shaped by a pursuit of performance. It feels like performance is quite the conversation I'm having. I had another person this morning talking about performance as well. And so we'll go deeper into that. So like I said, you've been shaped by a pursuit of performance, from energy markets and public policy to leading the world's top performing hedge fund in 2020. Congratulations. To backing in the next generation of founders through the California Innovation Fund. However, beneath the numbers, growth and investment success sits a different exploration for you, and that's the relationship between achievement and purpose. Such a topical conversation right now. 3 years of building, investing, coaching, and studying human potential. Bryce, you found yourself increasingly drawn to a question that many founders eventually face, and I know that we all do, is what happens when your capability outpaces your clarity of why? Today, you focus on supporting founders, building meaningful companies with long-term impact, and bringing together the rigorous analysis, deep curiosity, and a belief that the most sustainable performance comes when ambition is aligned with purpose. I'm going to talk later about sustainable versus regenerative, because I think there's, bringing that into play as well. We'll come back to that. At the heart of your work is an ongoing practice of intentional shape-shifting. And what I mean by that is ensuring that we commit to the next decade of our lives is to align not only with what we can build, with why we are building it in the first place. When you booked in for the pod and I asked you what's one unique insight or lived experience when it comes to life, leadership, business, and or investing, you said looking at your core why and ensuring it aligns with the very hard tasks you are going to be diving into for the next 5 to 10 years. Deep response equals no doubt a deep conversation we're about to have. I'm going to
Yeah,
hand it over to
hopefully.
you. Tell us a bit
Yeah,
about your
I
journey.
mean, no, that sounds great. Yeah, I think what we all, as we achieve more and more, we align ourselves more and more with purpose. I like to think so. It's a little idealistic, but I think you can see that in a lot of authors that you read or in like other business leaders that turn towards teaching in the later stages of their careers.
Interesting. Do you think it is later stages, or do you think I think about it like a bit like soul searching in terms of, success, and then what does that mean? And I think that the more success we gain along our travels, if you like, I think the more we start to go, what is this all equating to? And so success for me in particular, I was always looking at it from the outside in. And then when I started listening to what was going on the inside, I was like, whoa, hang on a second.
Yeah,
I've got a real disconnect going on here.
yeah,
And so,
100%.
yeah, what's your view on that?
So I think Dalio talked about it a little bit. Like you learn and then you do, and then you kind of like teach. And so I think like in the doing part, a lot of us are doing what we think we were told to do and achieving the success we were thinking, like move up the ladder in the rat race or become the CEO or whatever the title is. And then once you get there or get some good taste of what that is, you realize that you're just doing what you were programmed to do and
Mm.
not what you actually want to do. And so that's where I think, like, for me, finding my authentic self was like a journey I went on. And, I still think it's developing and evolving over time, but that really helped me align with what my purpose is and what I want to do in life for, you know, making this impact as opposed to achieving these goals, achieving this earnings, achieving this home, whatever that is.
And
And I think that's much more profound and like feels better.
fulfilling, don't you think? It's more
Yeah.
fulfilling. You feel connected from the inside out versus the outside in. And I think when we are shaped by performance and it's just perform, 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 chase it, it's like a competition that you're having with yourself. And when you realize that actually I don't have to operate like this, I can still get the results that I want to get. I do it from a different place and space. So I think is when we're able to be our most authentic and also able to be truly pursuing and fulfilling what you like, back to your purpose piece.
Yeah. 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 I totally agree on that. I think we really need to give ourselves space though, to be able to learn what those things are. And there's almost like a permission that you have to open up with yourself. At least that's what I found for myself is like, yeah, why can I go chase just what I want to do with purpose as opposed to do whatever someone else thinks I should be doing or what a lot of people think I should be doing.
Absolutely. And was that like, did you work on yourself, or did you go on your work on yourself? You know what I'm saying? Did you
Yeah.
go on your, I guess, soul searching, I'll just call it that for now, soul searching path pre coming into the managing partner role in California Innovation Fund? Like, what happened to you? Was there some moment where you were just like, hang on a second, no, this is not working for me. Everyone's telling me I should be doing this and I need to pursue this way. Like, what was the moment
Yeah.
that shifted
So
your thinking?
yeah, I was moving up the ladder at a like Fortune 500 company. I was achieving high remarks, getting my promotions, managing teams, all that stuff, and like everything looked good, and you could see the kind of trajectory of your career. And then I started going to Haas, which is Berkeley's business school, and realized there's just like so much more opportunity out there. And the company I'm in and the trajectory I'm on is just something I've done, but not something that I want to do in the world. And then I had like made a little bit of money with some friends, trading crypto and doing some investments. And so I quit my job and I quit Haas and I took a vacation around the world, like a 6 month break. That was my like sabbatical. And I was in a personal development course. So like I dove into spirituality. I was reading books on Rumi every day. I was reading books on enlightenment, all kinds of stuff. I had spiritual awakenings in Bali, like all the, all
Hey,
the
that's
cliche
cool.
level cheesy stuff. And
No,
then I
it's not
came back.
cheesy. Stop that. Like, the minute
No,
you
I,
say cheesy, you're then like dissing spiritual awakenings. And I truly
okay.
believe that we
That,
we have them. And I was going to ask you, what
yeah.
was one of your spiritual awakenings?
Yeah. So I mean, so on that, yeah, I say cheesy because it's like the more apropos way of saying it, but I don't think it's cheesy at all. I think we have a deep connection with this stuff. And I think our current day society distracts us from that. Means
Totally.
that like we've removed some of that connective ability. And the more you tap into it, do, breath work, do real work, the more you get reconnected with whatever this higher power is. And so, yeah, I mean, I was in Bali, I was meditating. I had like a Kundalini awakening where you get the electricity that's shooting up through your entire body. And I was sitting in a room by myself doing nothing. There's nothing around me. Like there's no reason any of this energy should be occurring. And yet my body's just totally lit up. And so that was like one of several experiences I had where you're just like, there's something else out there. What is this? There's no justification for this
Yeah.
from what I've been taught. And so when you have a few of those experiences, I think it really wakes you up to being there's so much more that
Mm.
I can't explain, but that I want to be in touch with.
Mm. And so then, so you're in Bali, you have these spiritual awakenings, you're like, there's so much more. You take a 6 month sabbatical. What happens next?
Yeah. So I was in Bali and then I did like Machu Picchu before that. I'd done some other stuff. I was in northern Vietnam and what was it? Hanoi. And I just woke up in my room one day and I was like, all right, it's time to go home. And I booked my flight back. I had no flight back planned yet. And then I went and that was where I started the path down that crypto hedge fund, which the the like weird irony is not lost on me that I had a spiritual awakening and I started a crypto hedge fund. But it worked out, and somehow it was my friend was trading it. I built a whole business around him. We managed the whole structure, figured out how to do stuff we'd never thought possible and we never knew how to do. And then somehow we were number one in the world the next year. And it was just mind blowing. But if I hadn't taken the time to separate myself from this generic path I was on, which was great, I would have never had the life I have now, which is far more interesting and feels far more aligned.
That's quite incredible, isn't it? That you take some time out and you get that such clarity and perspective, and almost like things just start to happen effortlessly versus, when you're in the grind, you're doing what you think you're meant to be doing, or people tell you what you should be doing. You're in a Fortune 500 company. It's like ladder by ladder by ladder. You're climbing the rungs and you're just like, ugh. It's like
Yeah.
really hard work. And then all of a sudden you just go, whew, and you get reconnected, and then all of a sudden here you are. Like, who would have thought you have a number one hedge fund back in 2020? It's quite incredible. And I think that's where the non-linear aspect of when you go on these sorts of journeys, you just have to explore it. Do you agree?
Yeah, you don't if you know the path that you're going on, you're not being open and creative enough in the world. Like no one knows the exact path they should be on. Um, and if you do know that path, you're not open to learning either, which I think, mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open. And it's totally true. We have to leave our mind and our spirit open to the possibilities.
Yeah, and sometimes those possibilities can be so damn scary because was everyone saying to you, "Have you lost the plot? Are you having a breakdown, Bryce?" Like, what came up for me
Yeah.
before, and I was just writing it down was, like, there's this masculine energy, right? Where it's just like, you have to do this, like you have to do that, versus there's the masculine and the female energy. And quite often masculine is very driven. It's very analytical. It's very, kind of drive, drive, drive. And then the female energy is more that wisdom, that flowing, that intuition. And so it sounds like to me you were tapping into different energy flows and then bringing the two together. Did
Yeah.
people actually say to you, "What the hell are you doing? You've lost the plot. Like, why have you left a Fortune 500?"
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I had a girlfriend at the time and she was like, sat with me when I told my parents and they were like, "What? You have a great job, you have a great career path, and you're just quitting? You have no plan?" They're like, "Yeah, that's exactly the plan." They're like, "Doesn't make any sense." So it was a fun conversation. I would say I would go to like spiritual shops or crystal shops. I'm chuckling a little. And then I had two different like women at the place. They're like, "You really need to tap in your feminine energy more." And I'm sitting there like, "What? Okay." So like I'm thinking about that. And then I go to my business school friends and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm diving into like emotions and spirituality and trying to learn like more holistically about life." And they all just looked at me like, "What is wrong with you? What are you doing? Like, we're here doing this business stuff." And I'm like, it's that they're not separate, guys. They're like inclusive
They're
and
interconnected, and
yeah,
it's so funny that I tapped into that, and here we are, like, talking about it, because do you know what? When I had my awakening, well, I had, like, a few nudges before I actually listened, and mine was, I broke my ankle, and it was my right ankle. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was my right. Yeah, it was my right, and it's like when you're at a crossroads and right ankle breaking is like dominant male energy driving, and I was always perform, perform, drive, drive, drive. And so I was having to learn how to access the female energy because I hadn't, like, interconnected it. And so I totally relate. And, it's not an easy it's not easy because you're so used to a way of operating and a way of performing, and you have to completely surrender, which is what you actually did. And kudos to you, because especially from a male perspective, like, just going, whoa, what's going on here? I love it though, because especially given that you're managing partner at California Innovation Fund and you're working and backing the next generation of founders, you must be bringing so much of all your lived experience into this next generation. What are you noticing about this next generation? Are they more soulful? Are they more open to, inner alignment? Or is it something that you're using as part of your advisory, guidance, coaching, if you like?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say that they're definitely all over the place. I mean, founders are innately like more unique, if that makes sense, than the average bear. Um, I will say like something I think I can do is just like take a step back and ask people more open-ended questions or get them out of just the business. And you get a lot more information out of people, why they're doing it, what the real change is. And then they're more willing to take a little time to answer the question. So with the long-winded conversation, you get the deeper truths, I think. Versus if I'm just like, okay, what's your round? What's your safe cap? Why is it like that? What are your comparables? Blah, blah. Like that's just a pop conversation. And that doesn't get to, I think, the deeper information that I think is really valuable in determining if these founders really have the grit and the knowledge to tackle this specific issue that they're diving into.
Yeah, it feels like to me it's almost like one of the criterias of whether, if you're going to invest or back a founder, if you like, and their company is how connected are they from the inside out? I know that sounds a bit woo. I just think that the more connected you are to one's self, the better the business will be as well, and the more interconnected the total business will be versus,
Yeah.
treating it like it's just this thing, if you like. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we look for like founder market fit, but I think that's not just like this person did this job before. Is this person really, really cares about this thing? They really want to make it happen. And they are like physically, emotionally, maybe spiritually aligned with what that task is. So they're going to really drive to make it happen. And I feel like you can tell that if you get just like really like get into the mind of the founders, you can separate who's I want to do this because I think it's cool and I heard it's cool and I heard this is a hot industry and I'm smart versus I want to do this because this is something that is my passion. I want to change the world. I
Yeah.
can only see the world happening with this. Like, yeah, I want to back this founder for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should ask, so you have you have the world's top performing hedge fund back in 2020. What led you then to the California Innovation Fund? What happened after you hit your pinnacle of success? Was it another spiritual awakening, another spiritual journey? Like, where once we're on the journey, you're continuously, evolving, or I like to say becoming formless. You go from one shape to the next shape and it never goes away.
Yeah, so we got oversubscribed, so we stopped fundraising for that fund, and then I helped some friends with another fund for a little while, and then I took about a year off, and kind of like, kind of like my first journey, I went to Bali, and I was like, I don't really know what I want to do, but I'm kind of doing this one thing, and then by the end, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this thing. Here I was just taking time off, trying to figure out myself. I read Way of Integrity by Martha Brooks. I love that book. It's all
Rate
about
of
kind of
integrity.
Way of Integrity, yeah. And she was like, you know, America's like number one coach or something like that, whoever subscribes to those titles. But it's all about finding the alignment within your body for your purpose. And she talks about kind of your ankle issue, but like at an 11, like she was in the hospital with a tumor, almost died, and then was like, I really need to refigure out my life. So she's all about that. But I think I took some time off, I read that, I was doing a lot. And then my professor of entrepreneurship called me up and was like, hey, you want to run this fund with me? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I need a co-GP for the second fund. So are you in on it? So we talked about it for like a month. I asked a bunch of questions. And for me, it was, I've like kind of achieved a goal I never thought I would achieve in my life. And it felt amazing. And I was able to help a lot of friends and family with it. I want to help other people do the same thing. And so that's my purpose, is to help others achieve a goal that's impactful and positive in life. And this job lets me do exactly that. So it felt extremely aligned once I dug into it. And I was like, oh, I needed to take some time for myself. And I found the next path in life. And maybe this is just what happens with me.
Yeah, it's
But
really interesting, actually, isn't it? Because it's not like, I guess my questions for you are like, do you believe in fate? Do you believe in destiny? Because it sounds like things have just somewhat fallen into your lap, or they've been presented to you, and they've been presented to you when you're present. You're clear. You're not overloaded. Like everything that, is going on in the world at the moment in terms of distractions, the inability to listen to what your soul is asking of you, etc. Do you think that's what enables you to move to your next chapter?
yeah, I think you need, well, I think I need the openness and space to to realize different possibilities. Like I was in this 9 to 5, everything was going great. My life was on paper wonderful, but like it just wasn't complete and there was a gap. And then I took some time off and I realized that, and then an opportunity presented itself. And then same thing with the second time around. It was like, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I guess I can retire right now. So I'm just going to take some time off and figure that out. And then again, something like semi fell into my lap, and it was because I was open and available, I could take advantage of it.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? And like for you, like how much do you feel like your identity has shifted along this way as well? Like in terms of the chapters that you're, continuing to evolve into.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty like profound spot. So I was working at an electric utility. That's where the Fortune 500, and moving up, and like I knew all about electric rates and infrastructure and debt for utility, all this boring stuff. And I had this like crisis where I was like, if I change my job, the last 10 years are a waste. What am I going to do with all this knowledge? And it just goes away, and that's totally fine. And then you pick up a new thing, and it's even more exciting, and you run with it, and your life's even better. And so there's like all this fear that I had that you get to overcome by just like stepping through it, as it always is that way. So I found that really, really fascinating and freeing. And then like later I got a tattoo of a dragon and a phoenix, because a phoenix is rebirth and change and dragon's wisdom and protection. And so like for me, it always symbolizes that, hey, this is something that I think we all should be going through, is our own rebirth over time. Like you're not going to do the same job your whole life. You're not going to be the same person your whole life. You're going to change and adapt and grow, and you should be open to that and invite it, as opposed to kind of afraid of it.
Yeah,
So
I
those are my
agree. I completely agree. When you've taken your time out, I was watching something last night. Actually, it really grabbed my attention because it was talking about, and I wish I had have saved it. I burnt out quite a few years ago now, 4 years ago, and really had to go through that was a whole rebirthing in itself, and I had to fully recover. When you've taken and what this thing was saying last night, what I was reading was that don't let yourself get to that point. And it was called something insurance, like it was, I don't know, rest insurance or something. And it was really interesting actually, because it's, that what it was saying was basically you take those moments of time out to kind of go and explore and find yourself. You don't have to take those moments and time out. And so for me, sometimes you have to be in a situation where you're forced to take the time out, because it's the only way, especially if you're a high performer or a type A personality, which I absolutely am. In the two big timeouts you've had, do you feel like they were identity crisis moments, or do you feel like you were burnt out, or was it just that you were misaligned to your purpose and where you were heading?
Yeah, I'd say for the first one, I felt more like misaligned. Like you you see the writing on the wall of like, oh, the corporate bureaucracy is going to be like this, and I'm going to have to do these things. I'm shifting into this kind of person, which is really not who I am, but I could do it. And that just didn't feel good. And so I think that was just like, hey, let me give myself the shake up. And I had this my catch one of my catchphrases I too, but one of them was worst case middle class. It's like the worst thing that happens is I go and I explore the world, I maybe try to start a business or two, and then I fail. And then I go back and I get a job, and I'm just gonna be middle class. So like that helped me with my like fear planning. And then the other part was
Sorry, did
the
you call
second.
that fear planning?
Yeah, fear plan. It's kind of like a Tim Ferriss thing. You like write down all the different fears that you can happen. Like, oh, if I quit my job, I'm gonna go broke. I'm gonna not be able to eat. I'm gonna da 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 da. And then you can see each of them laid out, and you're like, am I gonna go broke? Like, no, I saved up money. I can get a job on the side. Okay, fear done. And so you can just mark them off like one by one. And then if you have real fears, you could be like, okay, well, maybe I make a plan
Mm,
for mitigating that.
mm,
So I think that's a pretty helpful tool, and it helps really ground us, because otherwise we spin and we're like, oh my God. Like, no,
yeah.
write down the oh my God. What is it?
Yeah,
So I think,
absolutely, absolutely. And so then what, in terms of the California Innovation Fund, let's dig into that. Innovation in itself is continuously, evolution, revolution, all of that. What is it about the fund, and what are you seeing with the next generation of founders that is different to, previous generations. Yeah.
Yeah. So we look at a lot of like deep tech out of the UCs. So scientists building stuff, new research, new technologies, new materials, which is pretty neat because it's actual like tactile stuff. Generally speaking, there's some software and other stuff too, but generally it's those things, which is fascinating because you can see that people had to work like 5 or 10 or 15 years to get the expertise to really be an expert in this, which is great. And then finding more and more of the founders that are just super curious and diligent. Like if you couple those two things, you're going to be a leading edge person. And if you couple those two things at a very high level, I think you're going to be a leading edge founder. And so that's what I really like to look for. And then, AI is just so crazy now. Like I've been programming stuff this past week that I never thought I'd ever be able to do, and it's easy. And so like you have to be so adaptable nowadays because if you're not keeping up with those new technology trends, like someone's going to program 5 bots that run a circle around you, even if you're way smarter than that someone. So I think that's pretty fascinating to tell. Um, and then personally, I just look for someone that I feel is grounded and I can connect with.
And what does grounded mean to you when you're looking for a founder? Like when you say like a founder that's grounded, what does that mean?
Yeah. So they understand the amount of like hard work and diligence that it takes. And most people, if you're, a lot of our people we invest in come out of PhD programs or the like, and like you're already extremely hardworking if you get into those programs generally. So that's good. That they're humble enough that they can take advice, not that they
Mm.
always take the advice. Like coachability includes pushing away on certain things. So I really like to see that. And then I think if you can just have a conversation with them and you can talk about some difficult things and some nice things, and all of them, you're able to continue the conversation at a kind of like even keel or even level, then okay, we'll be able to talk about tough subjects down the road. And it's not like this person is just going to be on an emotional roller coaster at the largest extent, because they're going to be on some kind of emotional roller coaster in a startup.
Yeah.
So let's make sure they can balance it as best as possible.
Yeah, there's something really interesting in what you're talking about in terms of even from like the alignment and the inner alignment perspective. And I think that's a real opportunity, for founders as we go forward because so many founders, working 24/7, able to switch off, not able to listen to what actually is my calling or what actually is what, am I fulfilling the purpose? Because generally what I see with founders is that you are the business, the lived experience is what has brought you to come up with the business model or the product. And I'm sure that is what happens with deep tech. You see a problem, you're like, no one's solving this, so I'm going to solve it myself. It's so important. And I still think that we're somewhat, when you even mention cheesy and I mentioned woo woo, like it's
Yeah.
still somewhat separate and yet it needs to become completely part of
Yeah.
a founder's core, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, like I love the woo woo. It's very hard to explain it to people and to connect with it. Whereas you could be like, what's your ARR? Like, oh, it's a specific number, and like, what's your connection with yourself? They're like, good, great. Or like, oh, I meditate daily. I do this. Here's the things like, you can tell, but we can't measure it as well. And if we can't measure it, we like Western culture don't like to identify with it as much. It feels like.
Hmm. Do you think there's an idea in that though? Like, do you think it's possible to actually make it become mainstream, make it become part of, like, especially from a VC perspective and, like deals and the transactional component and then, like the relational piece, because like you've got to be connected with yourself as well. I just think there's a huge opportunity and someone like yourself with all your experience and all the journeys you've been on, do you think it's possible, or do you think we're a long way off from bringing it into?
I think it's possible. That's like one of my long-term goals was to be very professionally successful and then be able to bring in more of the woo-woo so that people starting out wouldn't think it's crazy. And if they have like their own personal connections or spiritual experiences, they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I can't tell anyone about that. They'd be like, oh no, no, this is a normal thing. Like Bryce did it, Steve did it, Joanne did it, whatever, and they could connect to that. And then like, if you read Michael Pollan books, or if you read almost anyone who's like a very top tier scientist who's found any form of spirituality, they're all like, there's something I can't explain. It makes my life a lot better, and I know it's true. Even if they've been just a radical scientist or like an atheist for years, they're like, no, 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 something happened to me, and I can't explain it, but this is all true. So we all know it, but it's not as like as common for public
No.
discourse as I think it should be.
No, absolutely. That's the mission. There's the purpose. Tell me a little bit about, like looking at your core why and ensuring it aligns with the very hard tasks you are going to be diving into for the next. I want to hone in on the next 5 to 10 years. In a world that is, emerge like rapidly changing on the daily. 5 to 10 years feels like such a long way off, and anything can happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, anything could happen the next month, let alone next 6 months with this revolution we're all in right now. Like, this year just feels completely wild in comparison to 2025, and yet here you are talking about diving in for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I I don't know. Like we'll never know the future. It seems more ambiguous now than ever. I feel like a lot of the research is still coming out of labs and universities. And so like maybe that's something I'm holding on to as a hope, but also that's just been history over time. And we're still seeing that with like the AI labs at colleges or the deep tech labs. So I'm hopeful that for at least for what I'm doing right now, that's how that's going to play out. And I think that's where still some of the best minds in our world are congregating for specifically like deep tech or research for medicine, pharmaceuticals. So I think I think that's what's going to happen. And if AI just figures it all out in the next 12 months, well, then AI figured it out, and we don't need to worry about all that other stuff. And if that happened, and we were like really saw the writing on the wall, like we would just return the capital that we have to investors, and then we'd say, okay, our world's a much better place, and it looks like we all clicked the easy button. So if it plays out like it has, colleges and universities will be a great source for this. That'll be very fun. And if it plays out like AI wins, then AI wins. Either way, it sounds like it's a good outcome.
I know. Do you think it's going to win? Do you think AI is going to win? I think it's going to be a integration, like coming back to like a spiritual awakening between humans and AI. I think it's gonna come to this point. Like it can't. Like yeah, I really
Yeah.
do. I think there's something.
I hope it just eases our lives and takes away a lot of our like I've been programming all these bots this past few weeks for the fun. And it's like, oh, now my administrative work is like reduced by 80 or 90% because of this. Like, that's fantastic. I have more time to do whatever I want, meditate, talk to more founders, talk to more VCs, talk to more investors, whatever. Um, and so if we can all do that with our lives, and if robots come in, then what are we going to do? Like, we could watch a million hours of TikTok, which sounds terrible, or we could get back to each other and connecting with each other and finding
Yeah,
our spirituality. And
totally.
so that's where I hope it gets to, is like we find this more openness, and then we find more connection.
I agree. I agree. Last couple of questions. What do you want to see change or evolve within VC in the VC ecosystem? Like, what do you think well, where are the opportunities? What do you see as the opportunities for evolution and change from where it is currently right now?
Yeah. Interesting question.
Like, if you think about, like, I'll give you a little bit more. If you think about it, like I mean, many of the people I talk to, it feels like it is in a bit of an identity crisis. I've spoken to people around conscious capital, patient capital, and then just hardcore capital. It feels like it's working itself out. It's like looking at what it becomes next.
Yeah. It's weird in the Bay, especially. Like everyone and your mom is starting a new venture fund. People who haven't started a venture fund are starting it. Someone worked at NVIDIA for 5 years. They got rich starting a venture fund. And so there's so much of that. I feel like there's going to be some weeding out, some culling, um, if you will. And then I hope that we get back a little more to like venture funds targeting what they're really good at. And so you have kind of like experts in their fields. Cause it feels like a lot of the younger managers I talk to now are like, yeah, I do X and any good deal. And so it's like the any good deal part means you're just for sale.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you actually have a purpose and you're doing it. So I find that pretty
You're not
interesting and
aligned.
funny.
You're not aligned to anything, are you? It comes right back
Exactly.
to alignment.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I think I'm assuming we'll get back to more. I'm doing what I'm really an expert at because that's how you survive too. It's like you're really good at something. But we'll see.
And what's next for you, Bryce? Like, like what's the next journey for you? Like, are you are you thinking about it, or are you just kind of going with the flow as we speak?
Yeah, it's more going with the flow. I feel very spoiled. I get to talk to a lot of super smart people every day doing really cool things that are going to hopefully change the world. And I get to go around campus and talk to professors who've been doing this for decades and have tons of students and support for it. And then I get to go to different campuses and do the same thing. And I get to talk to alumni and professors that have done this before. And so, yeah, just today I was negotiating a deal with someone who has a technology that can edit out genes of diseases that were previously uncurable. And they've got, I think they're up to like pig studies now. And it's just like, this is science future that I get to talk to people about on a daily basis. So what's next for me is just doing this for the next 5 or 10 years and then figuring out if I want to do it for another 5 or 10 after that.
Having a break, having another year off, or
Yeah,
sitting on
maybe, maybe.
yeah, yeah, sitting with yourself. Okay, final question for you. For anyone who is lacking in I'm just, I guess feeling unfulfilled, not knowing what their why is, and I probably will hone in on the founder here. And what would be your advice to them? Like, would it be take some time out? Like, what would you say for them to kind of really realign with oneself?
Yeah. I would say you got to take some time out. There's this poem I reread like annually that's about taking time and kind of like letting the wind blow by you and watching the waves. And it's really good for, I guess, like the type A types, which I include myself in. And then,
You have to share the poem with me. I love a poem.
yeah, yeah, I'm happy to share it.
Thank you.
Uh, and then I think doing some activities that'll do it. So like the thing that really started I went to Haas, and so I had to start, but they had you do this two things. They had you do a deathbed poem to yourself, and then they had you do a poem a year from now, or not a deathbed exercise. You write to yourself on your deathbed, and then the other is where you are a year from now. So your future self, 1 year from now, talks to your current day self, and in it, like you just let your mind run. I was at
Yeah.
this big company. I wrote a letter to myself. I had started my own coaching company. I was doing coaching. I was having new clients, and I actually did that. And then I transitioned into a hedge fund. But opening that door for myself and really letting myself see it and writing it down and taking that time, like you get to envision a totally different future than the one you're just constantly cycling in today. So I think, yeah, that little bit of time and separation lets you
So
see what else you
important,
could
isn't
be.
it? It's just important to get back to being present and comes back to being grounded. And I just don't think we do it enough. And, I call it non-time. It's just that practicing non-time, like not having anything, no distractions, no nothing, to kind of listen to what is actually being asked of you from your inside. And when you listen and they're not, it just comes to you. They just come to you and you're like, okay. It's like, do this, do that. Like, there's
Yeah.
something there that is telling you and guiding you if you allow if you allow
Yeah.
yourself to listen to it.
I think we all have like a spiritual self that we're connected to that with, I guess what you're calling like non-time, they're able to talk to us. And so I love talking to that person because I do believe they're me. And I also believe they're the smartest, best version of me. So I'm like,
Same.
yeah, let's
Same.
go.
I'm like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have to think. This is effortless. You're just like just driving. It's like driving a car. You're not driving it, like it's taking you on the journey that you need to go on. Sometimes I look up and go, why am I on this journey? Because I don't understand this hard bit. And I'm like, no, actually, I do understand it. So, oh my gosh, Bryce, what I told you we would have a deep conversation. I said that pre-show with you. I didn't even say hello to the audience because I was so consumed by knowing we were going to have a deep conversation. So here I am saying hello to the audience listeners now. And there's so much to take away from this conversation in terms of, realigning with oneself there is an integration of energy that we all have, and it's masculine and female, and so knowing when to tap into what. And I think it just comes right back to really knowing what your purpose and your why is so important. And if you're just climbing a ladder, rung by rung by rung, maybe
Yeah.
that's when you just need to stick with it and really listening and see what's actually coming up for you.
Yeah. Totally.
Awesome, Bryce. How do we find out more about you? Because you have got a Medium. I think you've got a Medium channel in terms of you write on a Medium. You've also got LinkedIn. How do we find out more?
Yeah. If you follow or just link me on LinkedIn, I pretty much respond to everyone. And then, yeah, I have a Medium blog. I post a blog every couple weeks or so. Yeah, but LinkedIn's great. And then email or text if you know me.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryce. Really appreciated your time, and yeah, have a great week ahead.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for chatting.
Thank you.